I got the horse right here, the name is Paul Revere, and here's a guy that says if the weather's clear, can do. This guy says the horse can do.
Part two of this week's rant, and time to announce a special segment suggested by the gentleman on screen there, Mr. Paul Daly, of course, who is the founder and owner of Ratings to Win, who we use, and well, I certainly use and love, and would suggest that it's a good idea that you check it out if you've never checked it out. Welcome, Paul. You're not here to talk about Ratings to Win, of course.
No, thanks, mate.
But I'll just lead in by reading out this interesting piece put together by a gentleman I don't know, but he seems to have a very good handle on things. So I'll read this out, and that can perhaps lead our discussion on what was a very, very hot issue, not only last week, but I think will be a hot issue in the months to come. So this letter to the editor reads, "Time to get off the throne. Racing New South Wales' idea of governance isn't just flawed, it's corrosive. The organisation has amassed nearly 600 million in assets, according to its own June 2024 report. On the surface, that sounds like prudent management. But look closer and it becomes clear this hoard is less about safeguarding the industry future and more about centralising power. Half of that wealth can be traced to the ATC's contribution, which represents roughly 50% of industry revenue. Yet the ATC is treated not as a partner, but as a subordinate, starved of funding, undermined in autonomy, and now served with a show cause notice. That isn't leadership, it's institutional gaslighting. The hypocrisy is staggering. Racing New South Wales has engineered the very financial stress it now condemns. By withholding equitable distribution of industry funds, they've effectively choked the lifeblood of the clubs, creating instability that didn't need to exist. And then, with straight faces, they parade in with threats of administration, posing as the guardians of stability. This is not governance, it's a shakedown. It's the equivalent of setting fire to the house, then charging rent for the use of the fire hose. This pattern is not accidental. It's part of a deliberate centralisation strategy. The more Racing New South Wales withholds, the weaker the clubs become. The weaker the clubs, the more leverage Racing New South Wales has to dictate terms. It's empire building, not stewardship. The ATC, which should be a powerhouse in its own right, is reduced to a pawn on Druitt Street's chessboard. But let's be clear, this isn't about sustainability or protecting the future of racing. It's about ego, control, and the slow dismantling of institutional independence across the industry. What makes this dangerous is that Racing New South Wales cloaks itself in the language of prudence and oversight. To the casual observer, 596 million in assets looks like security, but assets hoarded and not circulated become dead weight. Clubs need liquidity to run race days, fund infrastructure and attract participants. Without that, racing stagnates, communities disengage and the pipeline of future growth collapses. Racing New South Wales calls it governance. Economists call it capital misallocation. Punters call it a joke. And make no mistake, this is bigger than a squabble between a regulator and a club. This is about the culture of governance across Australian racing. Do we want a model where state bodies act like monopolistic landlords, tightening their grip on every dollar and every decision? Or do we want a model where industry growth is built on collaboration, trust and fair distribution of the wealth generated by horses, trainers, owners, jockeys, punters and clubs? Right now, Racing New South Wales is showing us what happens when a regulator forgets its purpose. It ceases to be a steward and becomes an autocrat. Until Racing New South Wales steps back from the throne it has built for itself, the industry will continue to suffocate under its weight. The ATC doesn't need an administrator, Racing New South Wales does, because what we're seeing isn't leadership, it's financial strangulation with a glossy balance sheet. It's theatre masquerading as governance. And ultimately, it's a clown show, only the audience isn't laughing, the audience is bleeding. So that was written by a gentleman by the name of Anthony Nowler, who I'm yet to meet, but he's obviously sounding quite erudite. Paul, we've seen a situation unfold in the past week that I would think you have particular insight into, given that your background in other pursuits that you've had over the course of your life gives you special, I suppose, knowledge. So, what have you got to say about what we've seen happening?
Yeah, okay. So my background, I suppose, gives me some knowledge. Prior to 2005, I had an insolvency business. So obviously, I dealt with a lot of administrators, liquidators, accountants. I suppose importantly, there's two distinct types of insolvency or administration. One being a corporate insolvency, which is triggered by usually an insolvency event, or there's a statutory form of administration, which is, in the case of the ATC, would most likely be appointed via the Minister of Gaming and Racing. I think that's David Harris currently, and the Cabinet. It might come via Racing New South Wales, but that's essentially the two different types, and the outcomes are very different. In a corporate insolvency, the creditors determine the outcome, whereas in a statutory administration, the minister would essentially determine the outcome and the timeline, whereas the timeline is very strict in a corporate insolvency. So
we don't know which one this is, do we?
We don't, and there's been sort of they've alluded to having grave doubts about the ATC's ability to remain solvent. So that would sort of suggest that it could be a triggered by an insolvent event. But then on the other hand, it doesn't make necessarily the best sense that were the actual outcome. I think
why is the regulator involved in a sort of a corporate insolvency event?
Well, they're creditors, right? So Racing New South Wales, if we go right back to the history without going into too much detail, I think it was 96, 97, the AJC at the time basically
we booed them out, didn't we? We
booed them out.
Didn't we, Glenn? Couldn't get rid of them fast enough.
But they basically were in control of the wagering dollar in terms of the distribution of it to different race clubs throughout New South Wales.
But they had to have an agreement with the TAB, firstly, correct, didn't they? So the TAB collected the money.
TAB got the money, obviously took the takeout, distributed, I think it might have been 50% or something like that, to the industry, and AJC at the time were the regulators of those funds in terms of they controlled what went to provincial clubs, what went to country clubs, etc. Naturally, there was some assertion that they were stacking the deck in regards to Warwick Farm and Randwick, and there was obviously moves later on. In 96, the Thoroughbred Racing Act replaced the old Thoroughbred Racing Board Act, and they removed those powers from the AJC and basically formed Racing New South Wales at the time. So they got those responsibilities. And if we then fast forward to 2011, when the merger went through between the AJC and the STC, despite the fact that members for the STC voted against it, because they were considered to be very solvent and capable in their own right. I think it might have been the chairman at the time, I might be wrong on that. The STC said, well, we're going to do it anyway. So that happened. And then, of course, in 2012, Racefields happened, and that was a great win for Volandis and Racing New South Wales. And they went from having little to no money to having hundreds of millions of dollars a year. And obviously the power that they had to then control the distribution of that, dictate prize money, decide what races were run. Basically, they would say to clubs like the ATC, Saturday prize money is going to be this, Wednesday prize money is going to be that, we're going to have these races, you put the show on, make it happen. And the ATC would say, well, we don't have enough money for that. So Racing New South Wales would say, that's okay, we won't give you a grant, we'll give you a loan. Non-interest loan, and it's repayable on the sale of a major asset. Or is it repayable on demand? There's probably some cloud around what that would look like if it were in the form of a corporate insolvency. So
Paul, can I just jump in there?
Sure.
This is the bit, and like your knowledge on this is like incredible compared to my knowledge. What I don't understand is Racefields came in, so all this money came to Racing New South Wales. They wanted to return a lot of the money to the participants, which is their favourite word, and why would the club say, yes, we'll do that if we have to pay that money back? Why does Volandis get to say, oh, this race is worth 10 million and 5 million and 2 million and money, and yet expects the clubs to pay it?
Well, because the clubs would have paid it. So the AEJC back in the day, out of the revenue collections that they got from wagering, would have said, okay, we've got this much money. We can therefore afford to pay this much in prize money.
Right.
And
but
so
obviously they didn't have this much money. This one's I'm confused.
No. They didn't. Well, prize money wasn't to the levels that it is now. So if you take a Saturday race now, I think it's about 160.
No, but why did we get here? How did Volandis say to the clubs, we're going to pay this much more money, and yet it sounds like he wants all that money back?
Or because he's entitled to. So Racing New South Wales can dictate the state of play from 96 onwards. When the Act changed, they had the power to say to race clubs, you will pay this much prize money for a Saturday race and this much money for a Wednesday race, etc.
You could say that to me.
No, that's correct. That's correct. And so the ATC would effectively say, well, we can't afford it. We can't afford to pay $160,000 for a Saturday race.
Right.
No worries. I'm dictating that you do it. Right. Do it, and we'll provide the shortfall.
So shouldn't that be the end of it? It's like they're giving them money.
It should be a grant. Yes. It should
how did it go from being a grant to a loan?
Because Racing New South Wales determined that that's what it would be. It's a loan. Sign here. You want the money? Here's the check. Sign here.
It's just like someone saying to Glenn Pollock, here's 500,000. Do your best. Do whatever you like with it. And then 2 years later saying, how'd you go? Oh, I went no good. And they go, oh, we want that money back. That doesn't pass the pub test.
No, it doesn't pass the pub test. And it's a bit like the parent saying to the child, give me all your money that you earn from your wages, and I'll give you the money that you need to live. That sounds like a great idea, Dad. And we'll look after the rest very responsibly. Kid needs some extra money for a particular emergency or a particular purpose. Ask the parents. The parents say, no, you can't have that. Why do you need that? The kid puts forward their case. The parents, they go, okay, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll lend it to you. So they're basically making the child.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but this is the bit I just can't get my head around. So
I can't get my head around.
In a way, I'm not saying you haven't answered it. I'm just saying I don't understand it. I don't understand.
The legislation gives them the power.
Can say we're going to give away all this money. Don't worry, we've got the money here, and now 5 years, 10 years on, it's we want that money back.
Well, what's changed is that the organisation making the decision about a prize money allocation has gone one step removed. So previously, the organisations that made the decisions about prize money were the ones putting the race on. Now, all of a sudden, they've got someone else telling them how much prize money to pay for these particular races, and the club doesn't have the money in the first place.
So why does the club pay it?
Because they have to. They're directed to.
Just like you saying to me, you've got to see this doctor. He's 4,500.
Yep.
Or you can wait over. You wait half an hour and go on the. He doesn't charge. Doesn't mean I'm
bulk billing. Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't get this bit of the whole thing. I don't get it.
Yeah, it's hard to understand.
We are dealing with at Druitt Street there, an organisation that just thought the odds and evens would pay for the Golden Eagle. So we're not dealing with super clever people, it would seem.
Well, they are the regulator, and they have the power under legislation to dictate the state of play, and that's what they're doing. They're dictating the state of play on a whole range of issues, including prize money. And the prize money is at a level which is unnecessary and unaffordable and unsustainable.
And unsustainable, yeah.
Yeah. So, and what should prize money be? Well, we can sit there and argue for hours, but in 85, a Saturday race was 15,000, say. Fast forward that with inflation, according to Reserve Bank's inflation calculator, suggests today it should be about 8. So they're probably double what they need to be. And if you say 8 of the 10 races on a Saturday are roughly that 160 mark, what's that, about $34 million a year or something like that, more than it needs to be.
And we've also got 100 extra races, Paul, because we only used to have 8 races.
Correct. We've now got the highway and the midway. Now, we can't even get the escalators fixed at Randwick that have been broken for 4 years. There's no money for that, but we've got plenty of money for pop-up races.
Yeah, well, the Racing New South Wales isn't interested in the escalators at Randwick, are they?
No, that's right. That's right. And recently, Racing New South Wales, I think it's only as recent as the last few weeks or month, had to basically step in and pay $5 million to the Commonwealth Bank of Australia on behalf of the ATC to meet a debt commitment that they could otherwise not meet. And I think the total facility is about 30 million, and Racing New South Wales have now guaranteed that debt to the CBA. And this is another thing that they're holding over the ATC. They're saying, look, not only are we owed all this money, we've given you all this money, we're owed all this money, you've mismanaged the club. There's been resignations galore at board level, and those resignations have come from directors who have cited poor governance, poor management, and there's been allegations, I believe, since the Rosehill demise, or the bid for Rosehill to be sold failing, there's been allegations of mismanagement at a corporate level. So Racing New South Wales are obviously protecting the participants and protecting the image of racing in New South Wales by saying to the ATC, please show cause as to why an administrator shouldn't be appointed. You could be absolutely 100% assured that the administrator, if one were appointed, would be a team player who would receive very strict writing instructions.
Yep. Okay. So where does this all go, Paul? Does this either? Well, I'll present to you my version of where it goes. The ATC gives away more power to Racing New South Wales in order to proceed. So they make more promises so that Racing New South Wales says, okay, all right, well, if you do all those things, you'll be, you're good to go, but we'll be keeping a bigger eye on you. Or Racing New South Wales takes over and possibly liquidates Rosehill.
There's lots of different scenarios that could play out depending on what type of administration it is, whether it be corporate, whether it be, a statutory form or an insolvency event that triggers it. If it is an insolvency event, obviously then the process would be the administrator would be appointed. Within 8 days, there'd be an initial creditors meeting. Within, I think, 28 days or whatever it is these days, there's a second meeting. A deed of company arrangement would be proposed or not to creditors, and determinations made, if you like, by the administrator as to whether there's an opportunity for this to be continued as a going concern. It is possible that that creditors could vote to return control back to the directors in that situation. But if there was then a subsequent liquidation, then of course it's game on. Now, I don't know that that's necessarily the course that will occur. Is it possible that the ATC have to, or if you like, cornered into giving up more control? I don't know what more they can actually give. It's possible. Is there a possibility that the ATC, or an opportunity for the ATC to kick this can down the road? I think there is. So maybe the best, or maybe one strategy that they could employ would be to say, well, look, we've had 8 chairmen in 15 years. In order to show cause, we need to gather information from all of these people. We need to interview these people. We need to get statements from these people. This is going to take considerable amounts of time. We need to view that information in light. We have to make decisions based on that information. We have to get legal advice based on information. We need at least 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, not a couple of weeks.
All right. Well, that sounds like they could buy some time.
We could buy time.
Sorry, is this all about around the way of getting them to try to sell Rosehill? Is this what they're aiming at?
Doesn't it?
Well, ultimately, if it's a creditor-driven insolvency, then that could obviously happen. Now, a liquidator, once they become an administrator, if it's a trade-on situation, they become personally liable for the debts incurred in the administration. So they've got to be very careful when they make a decision as to whether or not a trade-on occurs. Now, in this situation, it would seem inevitable that it would, if it's that type of administration. But what the outcome will be ultimately, who knows? But yes, there's the eyes on the prize. I mean, Glenn, you're a poker player. Racing New South Wales have a set of marked cards, and this is what they're playing to.
Well, on that note, Paul, I think we'll obviously watch this space. Thanks for your contribution today. It is a hot issue, and you've certainly shed some interesting light on it. So thanks for joining us, Paul.
Thank you very much. Thanks, guys.
Good on you, Paul.
Well
See you
done.
later. Bye-bye.
I got the horse right here, the name is Paul Revere, and here's a guy that says if the weather's clear, can do. This guy says the horse can do.